All right, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's never easy. What happens in the office after a round of layoffs? It's a moment that can truly make or break a team, and how it's handled really does change everything.
Whenever a retrenchment happens, our first thought, and it absolutely should be, goes to our colleagues who are leaving. For them, the impact is immediate, it's huge, and it can change the course of their lives.
But here's the thing. There's this whole other side of the story that we don't always talk about. And that's the massive impact it has on the employees who stay. Their experience is what we're going to focus on, because how they get through the aftermath is just so critical for the company's future.
See, a layoff isn't just a one-and-done event. It's more like a stone thrown into a pond. It creates this huge ripple effect that touches everyone. For the people left behind, the workplace can suddenly feel like a whole different world, filled with some pretty complicated emotions.
And that leads to this really powerful concept called survivor's guilt. I know, it sounds a little intense, but it perfectly captures that weird, unsettling mix of feelings. Of course, there's some relief that you still have a job, but that's often all tangled up with guilt for your friends who are gone, anxiety about your new, heavier workload, and that little voice in the back of your head asking, "Am I next?" It's a real thing, and it's a totally normal reaction.
So, the big question is, how does a team possibly move forward from that? Well, the answer isn't just to tough it out. The real key is to consciously build resilience, using a clear, supportive framework that helps everyone heal and move on, together.
And that framework is built on 3 essential pillars. It all kicks off with open communication. Then you've got to build a culture of peer support. And finally, you have to create a clear path for renewal. So let's break down what each of these really looks like. First up, communication. After layoffs, the rumor mill is just spinning out of control. So the most important thing leaders can do is get out there and be brutally honest. It's not about having all the answers, but it's about tackling that uncertainty head on. That kind of transparency is the only way you start to rebuild trust and make people feel safe again.
Okay, next up is peer support. Think about it. When everyone's feeling insecure, it's so easy for an every person for themselves attitude to take over. Fostering peer support is the antidote to that. It's about creating an environment where people feel like they're in it together, which helps them lean on each other instead of competing out of fear.
And our final pillar, renewal, is all about shifting focus to the future. Look, you have to acknowledge the past, for sure, but you can't get stuck there. This is about helping the team reframe all this change as a new opportunity, a chance to grow, redefine roles, and get everyone excited about what can be built next, instead of dwelling on what was lost. So those 3 pillars, that's the what you need to do. But the how you do it is just as important. The engine that makes all of this work is compassion. And we're not just talking about being nice. We're talking about compassion as a deliberate, powerful leadership strategy. Here's the simple way to think about how these 2 ideas connect. Resilience is your destination. It's the what you're trying to achieve. It's a team that can adapt and bounce back. Compassion? That's your vehicle. It's the how you get there. It's the empathetic approach from leadership that allows that resilience to actually grow. You really can't have one without the other. I mean, just let this one sink in. This might be the single biggest takeaway for any leader. How you treat your team when things are at their worst is what they will remember for years. It's an investment in trust that pays off long, long after the crisis is over. So, to wrap this all up, there's no way around it. Retrenchment is one of the toughest things any workplace can go through. But it's also a defining moment. It's a fork in the road where leadership can either break a team's spirit or forge it into something stronger and more loyal than ever before. Which really leaves us with a big question to consider, whether you're a leader or a team member. Thinking about those pillars we talked about, communication, support, and renewal, how can your workplace do a better job of supporting people through this incredibly tough process? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me today.